Hi everyone, come to you here from Oakland, California. It's a balmy 62 degrees. I've got, there's Marcel. We've had Remy's in a cone. I've had a sick dog situation this weekend. So, like the rest of you, I'm a little nutty. But here we are. The week is complete. I've been able to grade all your assignments and read through the discussion board and pretty much put everything to bed. I just want to make one last comment about prompts. I've mentioned it before, and I was thinking about what I often do with my composition and my creative writing students, and I have them read aloud their work. And there's nothing like reading something aloud to hear it in a different way, especially your own work. For those of you who are just somehow missing a section of the prompt, try reading it aloud. You don't have to read the instructions aloud, but look for the actual prompt itself and read it to yourself. And I think you'll hear it. And I sometimes do. I talk to myself apparently all the time. My husband says it's kind of loopy, and to the dogs. But when I read something aloud, I read my work aloud to myself a lot. In fact, I read a draft of a manuscript aloud last year, and it took a very long time, but I did it as part of my revision process. So think about that with the prompts. Now, I also want to talk about your final paper, because this is a paper where basically, if you've been a smart cookie, you have read my comments to your work. You've maybe even made adjustments, because your final paper, and you've had access to it, is a compilation of everything that you've done. So you really are in an organizational mode, and perhaps you've edited already, but if you haven't read my comments about your work, dog hair, do, and then you can actually start working on it, because you're going to be trimming and fitting and moving and transitioning between the elements, but really you're just saying, oh, I did this about readings, my book tour. I did this about the launch. This is my website. This is my social media. And then you just, transitional element your way through the thing. You do not want to put 12 pages of a timetable in this paper. In fact, 12 wasn't the longest timetable that we had. I believe we had a 16-page timetable. Now, this timetable is going to be awesome when the book comes out, but it's not excellent for an assignment. So summarize, condense, consolidate, and then leave those justifications. Nobody wrote too many justifications, and you might even bump those up. Okay, so final paper is the place where you're freely and with permission plagiarizing from yourself, from this session, putting it all in this beautiful package that, frankly, you could give to a publisher. If you got an agent and the agent got you a publisher, you could say, this is what I'm going to do. Here I am. I am the whole package. And I've got the whole package. Here's my marketing plan. It is a good thing to have. It's something that you could model for and use later. Okay, week 8 is book tour, literal and online, physically and digitally. The places you're going to go and the places you're going to go. I'm reading a novel right now set in the 90s when AOL was big, and I realize how far we've come with the internet. So in terms of online tours, I want you to think like blog tours, visiting people's websites, doing interviews on people's websites, podcasts on people's websites. In terms of physical locations, think outside the school, library, bookstore box. I give you an example in what did I give you? I gave you the cooking. It was a Williams-Sonoma. Did I mention that in here? I thought I did. I did a reading at a Williams-Sonoma. I've done a reading outside in a weird little amphitheater by a clothing store. I have read in cafes. I did a reading I did a reading. I forgot about this, guys. I did a series of readings at senior living facilities because somebody got my name. She got me into one senior living facility and I went to another. They had book clubs. So I've done readings there. I've done readings for book. I've done a lot of book groups. I've gone to many, many book groups. I don't think we've talked about that much in class. So yes, you want to go to BookCon and AWP and BEA and the Frankfurt and London book fairs, but think in your purview. Think of reality for you. Where could you go? What could you do? I've mentioned to some people you could go to hospitals. If you could go to, youth programs. You could go boys and girls clubs. You could, there's a lot of places to read local. Now you're not going to sell a lot of books at to the kids at the Boys and Girls Club. But you might go to another Boys and Girls Club and, a few people there, the adults in charge, that you might get paid. You might get paid. You might donate that. But whatever, really think around about where you might go and how you might facilitate that. Who do you need to call? Not just the Ghostbusters. And I mentioned Ghostbusters. I love Ghostbusters in the announcement. But think about this. It's a really smart thing to figure out now. The other thing I really encourage you to think about, and no one wants to think about this part for some reason. Maybe because it's scary. What are you going to do when you get there? Are you going to stand up and read for 45 minutes and put everybody into a coma and then leave? Because I've been to readings like that where someone stands up, because writers aren't necessarily the most practiced public speakers unless they're teaching. So maybe you can say hi, maybe you can tell the story about your novel, maybe you can read a 7-minute piece, maybe you can stop and tell another story, read another 7-minute piece, and then open it up for Q&A. Maybe have some ringers in the audience. But think about it. Why I love to read poetry more than I love to read fiction is that a poem lasts for about 30, 40 seconds. And then I can tell a story, I can talk, I can chat, and then I can read another poem, and maybe another poem, and then I can talk and I can chat. And then I can read from different, so my readings for my poetry book, I read from my book, and then I've been published in a couple journals recently, so I bring the journals and I read the newer poem. Sometimes I read the poem I wrote in the morning. Marcel says it's time to go outside, so I think I'm done. Hang in there. We are almost done. We have 3 things to do this week, which is kind of a drag, but so start early. Get the things done, and then we have 1 paper and 1 journal, and we are done. So a hard week, except if you've been like a little squirrel nutkin, you've got it all lined up, and then a journal, and you can just sort of have a little bit of a breather because I'm sure a number of you are signed up for next session. Anyway, hang in there. Let me know if there's anything you need to tell me, email me, and good studenting luck.